For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On one morning in 2011, 28-year-old Mateo Silva, an aspiring environmental law graduate, set out on a solo paddle deep into the winding and treacherous Lopez River maze of Everglades National Park, Florida. His GPS beacon went silent, and he never returned. Despite an extensive, multi-agency investigation that spanned weeks and covered hundreds of square miles, Mateo Silva vanished without a trace into the vast, unforgiving wilderness of the Everglades. For 7 long years, his grieving family endured the agonizing uncertainty, grappling with the profound mystery of his disappearance. Then, in 2018, a crucial and perplexing discovery was made. A sun-bleached kayak hull, bearing deep prop scars and a mysteriously torn deck line. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Mateo Silva. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The vast expanse of the Florida Everglades, a labyrinthine wilderness of sawgrass prairies and dense mangrove forests, holds both breathtaking beauty and profound danger. Within its intricate network of waterways, the Lopez River maze stands as a particularly unforgiving stretch, a place where the unwary can quickly become lost, swallowed by the silent current. The air hung thick with the scent of brackish water and decaying vegetation, a primal aroma that spoke of ancient cycles and untamed life. It was into this deceptive landscape that Mateo Silva ventured in 2011, a 28-year-old environmental law graduate driven by a deep commitment to conservation. His mission was a solitary one: to document the subtle, yet insidious, effects of mangrove runoff, a task that required navigating the very heart of this untamed ecosystem. He sought to gather irrefutable evidence, believing that informed legal action was the key to preserving these vital wetlands for future generations. Mateo was no novice to the outdoors. His passion for the environment was matched only by his meticulous preparation. His lightweight touring kayak, a vessel designed for long-distance self-sufficiency, was outfitted for extended trips, carrying provisions, mapping equipment, and, crucially, a satellite-linked GPS beacon. This device, a silent sentinel, was designed to transmit his location at regular intervals and serve as a lifeline in the event of an emergency, a standard safety protocol for solo expeditions into such remote environments. His solo paddle began as countless others had before, a seemingly routine journey into the wild, meticulously planned and executed. He understood the inherent risks of the Everglades: the unpredictable weather, the powerful currents, the sheer isolation. But his expertise, combined with his state-of-the-art equipment, provided a measure of confidence that bordered on assurance. Then the transmission stopped. The steady pulse of data from Mateo's GPS beacon, which had faithfully reported his progress, went dormant. The last signal had pinpointed his position deep within the Lopez River maze, an area notorious for its disorienting channels and dense, impenetrable foliage. As the expected time of his return passed without a trace, the initial flicker of concern among those awaiting him soon escalated into a chilling dread. Calls to his satellite phone went unanswered, swallowed by the vast silence of the wilderness. With each agonizing hour that slipped by, the realization solidified into a stark, horrifying truth. Mateo Silva, a young man with a bright future and a vital purpose, had vanished. The Everglades, known for its ability to absorb and conceal, had claimed another mystery. An immediate and desperate search was inevitable, but the sheer scale of the wilderness, coupled with the sudden, inexplicable silence from his beacon, cast a long, ominous shadow over the burgeoning efforts. The hope for a swift recovery began to erode even before the first search party could fully mobilize, giving way to an unsettling certainty that something had gone terribly wrong in the heart of Florida's most unforgiving wilderness. The alarm sounded, shattering the fragile peace that had briefly settled over the Everglades. Within hours of Mateo Silva's overdue return, a massive search and rescue operation was mobilized, a desperate race against time in an environment famously hostile to human intrusion. Teams converged on Everglades National Park, their ranks swelling with experienced park rangers, sheriff's deputies, and dedicated volunteers, all acutely aware of the unforgiving nature of their task. The Lopez River Maze, Mateo's last known location, was a bewildering network of narrow channels, choked with mangrove roots that formed an impenetrable wall, and vast, shallow bays that shimmered deceptively under the intense Florida sun. Searchers navigated the labyrinthine waterways in airboats, their powerful engines echoing across the silent expanse, while helicopters crisscrossed the skies above, their thermal imaging cameras scanning the dense canopy for any sign of life or debris. Ground crews, battling thick mud and swarms of insects, pushed through the almost impenetrable vegetation, their progress painstakingly slow. The sheer scale of the search area presented an immediate and overwhelming challenge. Locating a single kayaker and his small vessel in thousands of square miles of intricate wilderness was akin to finding a needle in an ecological haystack. Days bled into nights, marked by the rhythmic drone of airboats and the distant thrum of rotor blades, but the efforts yielded nothing. There was no sign of Mateo, no trace of his distinctive kayak, nor any personal effects that might offer a clue. The silence from his GPS beacon remained unbroken, offering no further data points, no final coordinates to guide the increasingly desperate search. Frustration mounted with each passing hour. Initial theories circulated among the search teams, attempting to rationalize the inexplicable disappearance. Had he capsized, succumbed to the strong currents, or become disoriented and dehydrated? Was an encounter with one of the Everglades' apex predators, a python or an alligator, a possibility? Or perhaps, in this vast, remote expanse, he had simply become lost beyond recovery. Without any tangible evidence, however, these remained mere conjectures, each as plausible and as terrifying as the next. As the first week drew to a close, the relentless sun and the draining conditions began to take their toll on the searchers, both physically and emotionally. The vibrant hope that had fueled the initial efforts slowly began to dwindle, giving way to a grim reality. The Everglades, it seemed, was holding its secrets close, and the chances of finding Mateo Silva alive diminished with every fading sunset. The search continued, but the urgency of rescue had begun to transform into the grim persistence of recovery. The frantic weeks of the initial search for Mateo Silva eventually gave way to months, then years, and finally, a chilling silence that settled over the case like the thick morning fog on the Everglades. 7 years elapsed since the last faint pulse from his GPS beacon, 7 years since the vast wilderness had swallowed him whole. The once active file, brimming with search logs, witness statements, and forensic reports, gathered dust on a shelf, officially designated a cold case. Mateo Silva's disappearance became one of the Everglades' many unsolved mysteries, a stark testament to the park's formidable power to conceal and reclaim. Though the official investigation had wound down, the unanswered questions continued to echo through the lives of those who knew him, a persistent, agonizing hum beneath the surface of their daily existence. What had truly happened to the promising environmental law graduate? Had he succumbed to the treacherous currents, his kayak capsized and swept away into an unrecoverable corner of the maze? Was it an unforeseen accident, a collision with unseen debris, or perhaps an encounter with the park's formidable wildlife? Or, in the isolated depths of the Lopez River, had something more sinister occurred? Without a body, without a single piece of tangible evidence beyond the initial silence, every theory remained mere speculation, each as devoid of proof as the last. The lack of closure was a profound burden, an emotional weight carried by Mateo's family and friends. They were left to grapple with an open-ended tragedy, unable to fully mourn, forever haunted by the unknown. The Everglades, beautiful and indifferent, held its secrets tight, mocking the human need for resolution with its vast, unchanging expanse. For 7 long years, Mateo Silva's fate remained a haunting void, a story left tragically unfinished, lost to time and the implacable elements of one of Earth's most enigmatic landscapes. The hope for answers, once so vibrant, had all but faded, leaving behind only the lingering ache of an enduring, profound mystery. 7 years after Mateo Silva vanished into the Everglades, his case, a cold file gathering dust, the vast wilderness finally relinquished a fragment of its secret. It was a local fisherman, navigating a rarely trafficked backwater channel deep within the Lopez River maze, who made the initial, unsettling discovery. His boat idled near a cluster of ancient mangroves, their roots gnarled and thick, when a peculiar shape caught his eye, half submerged in the murky water, snagged amidst the tidal debris. What he pulled from the embrace of the mangroves was a kayak hull, bleached almost white by years of sun and water, its once vibrant color long faded to a ghostly pallor. The vessel was a skeletal remnant, yet its form was undeniably that of a recreational kayak, its composite material still remarkably intact despite its long ordeal. Upon closer inspection, the fisherman noted more than just the sun bleaching. Deep, gouged scars marred the hull's underside, indicating a forceful impact, as if something sharp and powerful had scraped across its surface. A section of the deck line, typically a resilient safety feature, was not merely frayed, but violently torn, its fibers splayed and broken. The fisherman, accustomed to the flotsam and jetsam of the Everglades, recognized this was no ordinary debris. He reported his find to park authorities, who swiftly retrieved the hull for examination. Investigators, initially cautious, soon confirmed the hull's identity. Etched into the composite material beneath layers of grime and algal growth was a serial number. A cross-reference with the original missing persons report from 2011 confirmed the unthinkable. This was Mateo Silva's kayak. The discovery sent a ripple of shock through the Park Service, and more profoundly, brought a renewed wave of grief and agonizing hope to Mateo's family. After 7 years of agonizing uncertainty, the silent current had finally delivered a piece of the puzzle. The finding of Mateo's kayak hull served as an immediate and powerful catalyst, transforming a cold case into an active investigation once more. The nature of the damage was particularly telling. The deep prop scars and the violently torn deckline were not consistent with a simple capsizing or a gradual submersion. Instead, they painted a stark picture of a forceful, external event. This was not merely a missing person. The evidence now pointed unequivocally towards a potential collision or a catastrophic impact. The Everglades had not simply swallowed Mateo Silva. It now suggested he had been entangled in a more specific, and potentially more sinister, incident. The inquiry, dormant for so long, now had a concrete direction, however horrifying the implications. The sun-bleached hull of Mateo Silva's kayak became the centerpiece of a renewed investigation, transported from the humid Everglades to a sterile forensic laboratory. Experts meticulously examined every inch of its damaged surface, seeking to extract the story the elements had preserved. Forensic engineers and materials scientists focused intently on the deep, parallel gouges etched into the composite material on the underside of the vessel. These prop scars were analyzed for their depth, width, spacing, and angle of impact, all crucial indicators of the propeller's diameter, blade count, and the approximate speed and direction of the striking vessel. Simultaneously, the violently torn deck line, a braided nylon rope designed for resilience, underwent microscopic examination. The nature of the tear, whether a clean cut or a jagged rip, could distinguish between a sharp object or a forceful blunt impact, offering further clues about the collision mechanics. To understand the environmental context of the find, investigators enlisted Dr. Renee Cho, a veteran park biologist with an intimate knowledge of the Everglades ecosystem. Her expertise was vital in determining how long the hull might have been exposed to the elements, the likely drift patterns in the Lopez River maze, and how currents and tidal flows could have carried the debris from a potential incident site to its eventual resting place. Dr. Cho's understanding of decay rates and environmental factors helped establish a timeline for the hull's prolonged submersion and exposure, crucial for narrowing the window of the original incident. Complementing the scientific analysis was the invaluable local edge provided by Big Lonnie Cruz, a seasoned airboat guide whose life had been spent navigating the treacherous waterways of the Everglades. Lonnie possessed an encyclopedic memory of the Lopez River maze, its hidden channels, common boat traffic patterns, and the unofficial shortcuts often taken by local fishermen and tour operators. His practical insights into boater habits and the specific challenges of navigation in that particular area offered a ground-level perspective indispensable to the theoretical reconstructions. Overseeing the technical reconstruction was Omar Desai, a maritime analyst specializing in accident forensics. Desai's role was to synthesize the physical evidence from the hull with geographical and environmental data. He employed sophisticated software to model potential collision scenarios, cross-referencing the characteristics of the prop scars and deck line damage with known specifications of various vessel types, from small fishing skiffs to larger airboats, to narrow down the probable culprit. Together, this diverse team, biologist, local guide, and maritime analyst, began to meticulously re-examine the original search data, overlaying it with the new forensic findings. They sought to piece together not just what happened to Mateo Silva, but precisely how and where, turning the silent, 7-year-old mystery into a solvable equation of physics, environment, and human activity. The painstaking re-examination of Mateo Silva's case, fueled by the discovery of his damaged kayak, had yielded significant forensic insights, yet a crucial piece of the puzzle remained elusive: the precise moment and location of the incident. It was a stroke of improbable fortune, born from meticulous persistence, that finally provided the breakthrough. During a final, comprehensive sweep of Mateo's recovered personal effects, an old, waterlogged action cam, initially deemed irreparable, was found tucked into a waterproof pouch within a salvaged section of his gear. The camera itself was a wreck, but against all odds, its tiny SD card was still present, encased in its protective slot. The card, corroded and fragile, presented a formidable challenge to data recovery specialists. Weeks were spent in a cleanroom environment, using advanced micro-soldering techniques and specialized software to bypass damaged sectors. The tension in the lab was palpable. 7 years of submersion and exposure meant the chances of extracting any usable data were infinitesimally small. Yet, against the technical odds, a small cache of files was ultimately recovered. These were Mateo's own recordings, capturing segments of his journey, time-stamped and georeferenced. The recovered data proved to be the linchpin the investigation desperately needed. It revealed Mateo's precise movements, documenting his unique approach to navigating the Lopez River maze. Rather than adhering to marked channels, his camera showed him employing a series of tide-timed shortcuts through the denser mangrove canopies. These were not standard navigable routes, but narrow, often submerged passages that became accessible only during specific high tides, allowing for faster, more direct transit through the labyrinthine waterways. This discovery immediately explained why previous search efforts, focused on conventional routes, had failed to locate him. Mateo was charting his own, unconventional course. With this unprecedented insight, maritime analyst Omar Desai initiated a sophisticated overlay analysis. He took Mateo's meticulously recorded tide-timed routes and integrated them with historical boat traffic logs for the Everglades National Park, focusing specifically on the Lopez River area during the window of Mateo's disappearance. These logs, compiled from ranger patrols, commercial tour operators, and registered fishing vessels, provided a comprehensive record of marine activity. By cross-referencing Mateo's precise path with the movements of other boats, Desai was able to narrow down a specific collision window, a remarkably precise time frame and geographical coordinate where Mateo's kayak would have intersected with another vessel. This intersection point was often within a forgotten cut through the mangroves, a passage Mateo had used that would have been invisible to standard radar or visual scans from boats adhering to primary channels. The breakthrough was definitive. Mateo Silva had not simply vanished. His meticulous, unconventional navigation had aced him on a collision course with an unseen, unsuspecting vessel. With the precise data from Mateo's ActionCam SD card, detailing his tide-timed shortcuts through previously overlooked mangrove passages, and the forensic analysis of his kayak hull's prop scars, the investigative team finally pieced together the devastating sequence of events. The deep gouges on the hull, consistent with a high-speed impact from a propeller, combined with the violently torn deck line, painted a clear picture. Mateo Silva had been involved in a fatal boating collision. Omar Desai's sophisticated overlay of Mateo's exact route, with historical boat traffic logs zeroed in on a specific collision window. It was in one of those forgotten cuts, a narrow channel Mateo had navigated during high tide, that his low-profile kayak intersected with a larger vessel. The other boat, likely traveling at speed, perhaps also taking an unofficial shortcut or simply failing to spot the small, silent kayak in the dense, obscured waterway, struck Mateo with catastrophic force. The impact would have been instantaneous, leaving no chance for survival or for Mateo to activate his now-silent beacon. The Everglades had not swallowed Mateo whole. It had merely held the secret of a tragic, unforeseen accident. After 7 years of agonizing silence, the truth, however brutal, finally emerged. Mateo Silva had died in a boating collision, a victim of the very waterways he sought to protect. While his body was never recovered from the vast, ever-shifting landscape of the Everglades, the forensic evidence and recovered data offered a definitive answer to the haunting mystery of his disappearance. For Mateo's family and friends, this resolution brought a profound, if painful, form of closure. The torment of not knowing, the endless speculation and lingering hope, was replaced by a concrete, albeit heartbreaking, understanding of his fate. They could now begin the difficult process of true mourning, their grief no longer suspended in the limbo of the unknown. Mateo Silva's story became a poignant reminder of the Everglades' dual nature, a place of breathtaking beauty and unforgiving peril. His passion for environmental advocacy had led him into its depths, and ultimately, his meticulous documentation, preserved against all odds, had served as his silent witness. The case underscored the critical importance of safety protocols in remote wilderness, the responsibility of all who navigate its waters to remain vigilant, and the unpredictable consequences when these factors tragically align. Mateo's legacy would not only be his dedication to preserving the Everglades, but also the chilling narrative of his disappearance and the extraordinary 7-year journey to uncover its truth, a testament to nature's power to conceal and eventually to reveal.